Mike's up and we're off and running. It's about 5:45 on this Monday, February 22nd. We've had an awful lot of winter weather here in the last few weeks, and I guess this will make a lot of people happy to know that things are beginning to calm down, at least just a little bit, and at least for a little while. During this update, we'll discuss the pattern that we're observing right now across the eastern U.S. and looking ahead towards more wintry weather. Had some wintry weather outside just a little while earlier. This is a current view. This is Wayne County looking out towards Port Bay. You see Old Glory there in the top right, just barely moving, but we did see pretty good snow, about 3-4 inches of some wet snowfall outside a little while earlier, and now those flakes have come to an end, at least for now, and already eyeing that next storm that looks to pay a visit as we head on into late tomorrow. So a storm about 24 hours away. It's going to bring a mixture of some rain and snow back across the region. And there's a current look at radar, and we'll get caught up on who's on here, and then we'll move on with the program, talking about the current hazards that are out there. There are winter weather advisories that continue for eastern sections of the state. So looking into that a little bit. Also, high wind watches and high wind warnings posted for parts of the northern plains. And the current outlook is up. Let me, actually, I've got some personnel around here. Do you mind sharing my latest link to the WxLIVE media page?
Sure.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, all right, who do we have on the program? We've got Gully in the house. Hello, David, and Zeeble. Thank you for stopping by. They're looking at radar showing it looks like I've lost my P-type or precipitation type. It's still some pretty heavy snowfall. Wet snow mixing with rain on the immediate New England coast. If we turn off our radar data, you can see they don't even have advisories out towards Providence and Boston because it's almost all rain. But there are some intermittent advisories into western New York. I should say upstate, northern New York. Advisories in effect for Oswego, Lewis, Jefferson counties through parts of the Adirondacks and also south into the Catskills. Again, not a ton of snow. Not really all that noteworthy. This storm system is out of here, and already we're looking upstream where they do have advisories in effect downwind of the next weather maker. Already we're looking upstream where there we go. Thanks, son. Which weather advisories posted for northeastern Montana, parts of North Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. Really nothing earth-shattering after what we experienced the last few weeks. This is really calming down quite a bit. There are blizzard warnings, by the way. In effect, is that the Bitterroots of Montana, western Montana, where you're seeing that jet stream wind energy beginning to build back in. The flow is changing after that Arctic air mass that stole all the headlines the last few days. Things are now beginning to normalize, if you will. So somewhat closer to where things should be with respect to climate. Keep in mind, it's late February. Typically, still enough cold to cause some problems for much of the U.S. and but with more of a zonal flow, which is what I'm seeing now, I find it much less likely that we're going to see any large snow, at least in the next week and a half, for any of the big cities across the eastern United States. At least that's the way it's looking right now. Here's a look at the continental view of the U.S. This is enhanced infrared satellite, and you can clearly see where the jet stream is running right now, where we're seeing some ridging along the immediate west coast, and then there's that trough before it goes sweeping like that. So something like that. And so the cold air that's been around, it's beginning to lift. And as that continues, I do believe that the warming will push into the area over the next 1 to 2 weeks, and then we have some serious questions after about the first half, I should say the first week of March, but we're not going to look that far ahead, at least right now. All right, let's talk about the near future, and we'll begin in the Northeast. That next storm beginning to churn out of Alberta, Canada, and yes, it's clipper season. So here it comes. This is in here by afternoon tomorrow, and then it ends just as quickly as it comes in. A little bit of light snow. I don't think there's going to be any advisories for it. And then we'll have another system on its heels on Wednesday. So System 1 exiting now. System 2 tomorrow during the day. Higher elevations pick up an inch or two. Otherwise, temperatures are going to be warm enough to where it's not going to really matter. It's not going to affect roads, and everything's just fine. Wednesday could actually see a period of some just plain old liquid rain before a front moves through and cools us down quite a bit. So that's the Northeast in the near term. Let's take a look at the larger picture, and this will be courtesy the GFS, focusing on the eastern United States. So System 1, Clipper 2, and then there's the third clipper that could bring some plain old rain to parts of the Northeast on Wednesday. And then looking beyond that, as we head on into the very first part of March, is where we begin to see that pattern shift again. Some of the data biting hard on some very cold, if not Arctic air. Not for the central U.S. like we saw last time, but maybe a glancing blow for parts of the Great Lakes and the Northeast. So that'll be into the first week of March. All right, let's see the other goodies we have for you, and then we'll take some comments and questions. Let me throw up my little handy-dandy 4-panel plot. Make sure that's right. 1 panel, 2 panel, 3 panel, 4. Yes, I can still count, but I do need my fingers, just so you know. At least I like that one. Okay, I'm glad someone does. Taking a look out again. Look at the geese. Oh my gosh, we've got an army of geese outside. Look at those guys. What are they up to? Probably no good. It's a pretty good picture. It's actually kind of dark. It's amazing the amount of light that those cameras can pick up even when it's getting dark. That's pretty cool. All right, with that, we're not going to make this long-winded. This will be short. If you don't mind, a quick like and share. As always, it's appreciated. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so. We'll be doing a lot more with this channel, especially once we get into the spring months, because, of course, you know, we have our eye on severe weather season. This is a La Nina year. I think that means that it's going to be a pretty rough spring season once we begin to warm back up. And I do mean that for most of the eastern U.S. All right, there we go. We've got the news unit is on here, and he says, go do a visible playback of all the snow cover that just disintegrated over Texas. That actually would be very interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. Let's do that together, shall we? Okay. Well, let me get the correct region up and let's see what it looks like. That's a great idea. So I'm assuming that we saw that occurring today. So let's back it up, and where's that Texas snowpack? I'm looking at the visible. It was a beautiful day in Texas. I know that much. I'm going to go back about 200 frames and see if we can see it. Maybe from yesterday, it looks like it's already gone. Here, this is what I'm looking at. We appreciate the suggestion. This is what I'm looking at. Today, it looks like it was already gone. So maybe that was from yesterday. So this is the visible Texas, and there's really little to no snowpack left. That was today. So if they had a big snowmelt, it was probably yesterday. Interesting, though, nonetheless. Appreciate you being on here. And with that, let's go back on over to radar here as we speak. Again, we've been looking at the Pacific Northwest. Let me get my logo off there because I feel like I'm double logoing it. You will notice your temperatures, though, beginning to build, and we're seeing that downsloping wind across the northern and central plains. That's a warming wind, sometimes known as a Chinook, like the helicopter, right? You get those downsloping winds, and it really helps to warm those temperatures up. And that's what we're seeing across the plains. Keep in mind, these guys just a week ago was so far below zero. So you got the higher terrain across the Rockies. It does extend up into Montana. So the higher terrain up here, right? And then what happens when the wind turns around to the west, you get this downsloping wind. West, sometimes out of the northwest. And that's actually a warming wind. And that's the reason Pierre, South Dakota, right now is at 61 degrees. You go back a week ago, and they were below zero. So that's actually quite the improvement for our friends out there. All right, let's see who else. Let's see, and I'll come back to comments in a moment. Wanted to look at what other hazards that we're dealing with. And I'd mentioned the wind advisories and the high wind warnings. That's also in addition to the advisories. It's the winter weather advisories that we have posted across portions of the northern tier. But here's a look where those high wind warnings are posted. This is courtesy Capital Weather. And you can see some of those higher wind values. And again, this is a warming wind. This is associated with that downsloping wind coming off of the Rockies. This is with the next system and immediately behind it. And there you go. You got those high wind warnings in effect. Not untypical this time of year. Central portions of Montana into northwestern sections of South Dakota. Wind advisories for much of the Dakotas. Some high wind warnings to higher elevations across portions of Wyoming. All right, so where's all this going? I showed you the GFS. What does this mean? I'm going to show you right now the jet stream pattern that is setting up across the U.S. Again, that was the GFS where it was highlighting the next few storms. We've got some clippers that are on the way. I'm going to take a look at jet stream winds, and then we're going to look at height anomalies or temperature projections, essentially. So let's start you with the European forecast model, North American jet stream winds. So we go from this from that big displacement of the polar vortex. It's lifted. Now we have more of a consolidated, normal position of the polar vortex in the next week or so. And then beyond that, the whole thing begins to break down. And unfortunately, we go from, I say unfortunately, it just we go from one singular branch of the westerly jets, and then it breaks down and devolves into the northern branch and the southern branch as a low and a series of lows begins to develop in the Baja of California. And that's not typical. It happens, but what it's going to do is it's going to make it a little more archaic as to how the weather systems will evolve in time beyond that, because you go from these southwesterly lows, you go from two separate branches of the jet stream, and then you have some phasing, and then you have some dephasing. The pattern overall is a warmer one, though, and you're going to see that reflected in the data. So for some people, that's going to make them very happy. We don't know exactly how long it's going to last, though, because we've got some haziness once you get on into the longer range forecast, which we'll see here coming up in just a few minutes. That being said, going to do I like to keep a news source on while I'm on. Got to stay informed somehow. Okay, so that's the jet stream wind here, or the 850 temperatures. So about 4,000 or 5,000 feet above us, according to also the European ensembles. Shows that next little cold blast coming in here to start the weekend. And then it really warms up here Sunday, Monday. And then you can see we have this downsloping. And I say you can see it. Maybe with an untrained eye you can't. But so much of this is coming off of the Rockies right now where we're seeing those Chinook winds take place. And that's a warming process as well, which looks like it's going to continue to prevent any real deep-rooted Arctic air, at least in the near term. I think the exception is going to be some of these fronts that move through once we get into the first part of March, especially for the Great Lakes in the Northeast. That's where you may be more likely to watch those temperatures, at least on a local level, really plummet. These are 500 millibar height anomalies. Shows the region on the East Coast as we head towards this weekend. And then the low pressure moves out west, and then it lifts to the north. We're really, once we get into the first part of March, the ensembles are having a hard time figuring out which way it's going to go. But certainly it's not going to be as cold as it has been. Here's a look at the Climate Prediction Center, their official forecast next 6 to 10 days. Showing you where we've got those temperatures well above normal. Eastern U.S., well below normal across the eastern U.S. or western U.S. I agree with this. I think that this is correct. But it's once we get to the next stage, which is the 8 to 14, that things become a little less clear. Right now, generally speaking, they're trying to keep it cooler west and warmish east. I'm not sure if this is going to verify. Some of the ensembles going much colder across the northern tier in the northeastern U.S. We'll see. We'll see how the data holds. With that being said, it is 6:05. Been on here for about 20 minutes, so we're going to bring this one down for a close in just a couple of moments. Wanted to see who we had on. We got lots of comments on here from the news unit. Thank you for stopping by. As I understand, he's got his own podcast as well. And if my memory serves me correct, sir, you are a storm chaser, and I believe also a fellow man of faith. So thanks for stopping by. We appreciate it. Mike on here. I like your view of your place. Well, thank you. We feel very blessed to be able to stay up here and be able to watch the winter storms. Man, it's been really crazy. Quite a view up here coming off of Lake Ontario. That is Lake Ontario, by the way, that you see in the video. So the bay is where the ice and the snowpack is. That's what you're looking out on. But if you look right there, out into towards the horizon, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but that's actually Lake Ontario. It's very cool, which is almost wide open. It's got about 15%, maybe 20% ice covering. So it's pretty wide open, even for this time of the year, which means that all we need is a little more Arctic air. We'll bring back the lake effect snow. And you guys know that's the way that works. With that being said, thanks for joining us during this program. Just wanted to do a quick update. It's been a few days since we covered weather with any detail since the winter storms from last week. So this was the update. Again, thanks for the likes and shares. Keep that going. Remember to subscribe to the program and hit the notification bell. Make sure that you guys know when we're on. Thank you for being here. I'll be back with our regular Facebook program. That's Weather Live at 8:45, covering not just weather, but politics and news as well. That's with my co-host and bride of, I think it's 19 years this year. So we hope to see you guys then. That's Weather Live at 8:45, coming up here in just a couple, well, how far away? We're about 2.5 hours out, so I'm going to have to change gears here in a moment. All right, where'd my program go? And there it is. I'm out. You guys have a great evening if I don't talk to you sooner. And stay warm out there, guys. Spring now. Spring. 4 weeks away. We'll be talking more about that in the coming days ahead. You guys have a great evening.